Welcome to GlobeTrotter. I'm Jon Haggins. I'm here in Bologna, and Bologna is a Roman city. It's a food city. There's lots of great food here, and it's a college town where there are lots of young people, a lot of activity. You will absolutely love it.
Hello everyone, welcome to my hometown, Bologna in Italy, the north of Italy, and we are standing beside one of the hallmark of Bologna, this beautiful statue, the statue of the Neptune, that was built in 1566 when Bologna became the second biggest town in the state of the church. And this fork is the symbol of Maserati. So this beautiful fountain was made by an artist working in Florence at that time, Jean de Boulogne, and he had a reputation to be a kind of Michelangelo. This is the archaeological museum, where you could visit all the historical period dating back to the 9th century with the Villanovian civilization, the Etruscan, the Celts and the Roman. And it's very interesting. Here you have many tomb stones. You have one where it is engraved some pigs and a man working in a mortar and mixing the meat to prepare mortadella. So mortadella is very a cold cut that dates back to the Celts, to the Roman. They could prepare already mortadella at the time.
The food district is fascinating. Everything is fresh.
My family, we are involved in meat and processing and food in this city since 1919. It was my grand-grandmother. We come originally from a town in between Modena and Bologna that is called Castelfranco Emilia. That's the town where the tortellino was invented. So we come from this town, and my grand-grandmother, actually she bore in the place, she bore in the restaurant. Yes? So what happened? They moved to Bologna. She was a chef, and my uncle, my father, and my auntie, this is my father in the 1960, they started making pasta and then making salumi. So we take the salt from Cervia. There's a street called Via San Vitale. Since the Roman times, the salt that is like gold for us came through Bologna. The two towers, that's the entrance, is called Porta Ravegnana. The salt from Ravenna comes in Porta Ravegnana, and that's where we have our church. It's the Church of San Matteo, protector of salumieri. And you can say, this is our logo. So you see in the heart a cup full of salt. And the king of Italy, it's still our president, the president of the corporation, and the logo of Bologna, Comune di Bologna. Bologna in the 12th century was like New York today, towers and university. Many people from everywhere. So many gastronomic tradition came, and we then invented mortadella, tortellini, lasagne, tagliatelle, gramigna. You remember the earthquake here. So many Parmigiano wheels fallen. You can imagine these cheese, they did like this. In this area, it's where we have animals. The animals are processed. In one day they come. The meat is very fresh.
I'm shopping for the best cold cuts.
We don't have only culatello, but also culatta and fiocchetto, which is even better than the Parma ham.
You know, this is an extraordinary experience being here in Bologna, and this is Emilia-Romagna, and this is a food capital, and it's also a college town.
In Paris, the university was very vertical. Here was very horizontal. It means that you arrived in Bologna to study in Bologna, you had to belong to a nation. Within the nation, Each nation selected an advisor, and then there was the board of advisor. Within the board of advisor, there was a selection of a prior and of a dean. Okay, and they were in charge. Students came from rich family, of course, so all of them belonged to a family that had a coat of arms, an emblem. First you have the nation. For example, Romanov, Longobardia, Grecia, Hungaria, that's the nation. And then you have the name of the student. Sometimes it was written down prior. For example, behind there you have a prior from 1764. Antonius was a prior of maybe the German, because with the eagles. So you have 7,000 coat of arms everywhere in the courtyard and at the first floor. And you know how it was structured, the university at the time? There were only two kinds of students. There were the law students and the artists. And in fact, they had two different entrances. And at the first floor, they had 10 rooms, 10 lecture hall for the artists and 10 lecture hall for the legisti, the law students. And so the artists were studying everything except from law, so medicine, philosophy, and they were very interesting in this university site is the anatomy room. Very nice. Starting from 17th century, they were allowed to take anatomy lecture, not before. And you have this nice wooden lecture hall with a slab of marble where corpses were placed there. And nowadays here there is a public civic library with 800,000 books. We had the university only till 1802, from 1567. And it took 17 months to build this building. Amazing, only 17. You know why? Because a few meters far from here, we have the basilica. It's not the cathedral. Huh? What we have in the square, the main square, is not the cathedral, is the basilica. Basilica devoted to Petronio, the very beloved Petronio. And they wanted to have the biggest church in the world for Petronio, but the Pope didn't want this. It couldn't be bigger than St. Peter. Anyway, the basilica we have on the main church is the sixth biggest church in the world. This is the oldest church of Santo Stefano. And beside that, you have a third church of the martyrs, the local martyrs, Vitale and Agricola. And behind you have another church, and then a cloister. It's a kind of maze.
Jon Haggins, the GlobeTrotter, is a travel book unto itself. It's like no other travel book in the world. When I think of travel, I think of friends around the world. Travel introduces culture, cuisine, and history. If you ever have the desire to see the world, the colorful photos will take you there. You'll visit Thailand, Vietnam, Brazil, Portugal, Sweden, and many more. Don't forget the aromatic recipes that will whet your appetite and allow you to dream. You know, when I think of food, I think of home. The cover of Jon Haggins, the GlobeTrotter is whimsical. It gets you in the mood for traveling. Remember, my world is your world. So get up, get out, and travel! Welcome to GlobeTrotter. I'm Jon Haggins. I'm here in Bologna, and Bologna is a Roman city. It's a food city. There's lots of great food here.
We're in a museum that was opened in 2012. It's very recent. It was meant first to restore the original house of Enzo Ferrari right here and the workshop of his father. Today we have an exposition about women. Women have been always important with regards to the races, being clients and also workers in Ferrari. Every car here is belonging or has belonged to a woman in the past. In Maranello, we have two types of expositions. One is about the process of making a Ferrari, and it's called Ferrari Under the Skin, and compares a car with a person that has an engine, which is the heart, a body shell, which is the skin, and then the chassis, which is the skeleton, and is in collaboration with the Design Museum of London. The second part is about the 17th anniversary of Ferrari that was celebrated last year. Enzo Ferrari falls in love with cars and races when his father takes him to one of the first races in Bologna when he was only 10 years old. Enzo Ferrari finally establishes the Ferrari factory in 1947. The first car that he presents to the world is the 125S. This car here. Unfortunately, we don't have the original car. We only have 3 cars of this type around the world, and one is exposed now at the Design Museum of London. But we have the original engine here. In the 40s, finding an engine with this dimension and this power, 12 cylinders, was impossible. In 1923, Enzo Ferrari meets the parents of this Francesco Baracca during a race in Ravenna, and the mother, the Countess Paolina, decides to give this symbol that her beloved son used to Enzo Ferrari to use on his future cars, because she saw in Enzo the same talent, the same heroic, character and figure that her son had, and decided to give the permission to use the prancing horse. Enzo Ferrari will modify and edit a little bit the horse. He will add yellow, as you saw also on the roof of the museum. Yellow is a very common color here, is a symbol of Modena together with blue. He added the tricolor representing his country, Italy, the initials SF, Scuderia Ferrari, and the tail of the horse, if you see, is pointing upward instead of downward as a sign of triumph and victory. Here we have some pictures representative of his life since when he's an adolescent until he's an adult. Enzo Ferrari will have 2 sons. As I told you, Dino Ferrari, born in 1929, will have the same passion and talent for engines. He will actually invent a type of engine with 6 cylinders that will be afterwards called the engine Dino. Dino Ferrari will unfortunately die at the age of 24 years old for a muscular dystrophy. Nowadays we have the engine museum. As you can see in the center, we have various engines from 1 cylinder to 12 cylinders and also Formula 1 engines.
The Ferrari Museum shows off the history of the Ferrari. Love fancy, fast cars.
Today here in Modena we have an exposition which is called Rosso e Rosa, Red and Pink, to celebrate and commemorate women. Women are important with regards to races, but also as workers and as clients. We start talking about a car that is not in production anymore, a very modern one, the 458 Speciale A. A means aperta, opened up. It has an automatic roof that in 14 seconds can be opened or closed. We have this car here because it represents a very innovative technological revolution, because it's a car covered in carbon. Carbon is a very light material that allows the car to be very light and super fast. This car presents a V8 engine and has been created on the base of the 458 Speciale Italia. In 2013, Ferrari has presented La Ferrari, this model here. This car is a supercar with a very limited edition. Only 499 vehicles of this type have been created and sold to specific clients. Not everyone could drive and buy this car, but only specific clients chosen by Ferrari itself. With the 250 GTO, we are in the 60s, so we move into the past. This one is one of the most successful and famous cars Ferrari has ever created. This car is also the most expensive car in the world for many reasons. First of all, the success that this car has had during the circuits during the 60s. For example, Monza, Le Mans, the French circuit Le Mans, many successes and victories. And also the double personality, because it's a racing car, but also it's very elegant. It could be driven by women. The value of this car is nowadays $52 million and is the most expensive car in the world. Because the engine was very powerful, it needed to be cooled down. That's why it's very representative of the 250 GTO to have air tanks on the hood of the car with a D form. Sometimes you would have 3 air tanks on the top or 3 in the inferior part.
This is the car that Beyoncé and Jay-Z bought.
In the 50s, one of the first Spider versions Ferraris is the California, the 250 California, from 1957. This car has been created and designed for the Americans, for the American market, because it was similar to a Cadillac, a car that back in the 50s Americans would prefer and love. The 212 Intercoupé were in 1951. The first years that Ferrari is creating street-going cars for everyone, for a larger market. This car has been bought by Anna Magnani, a famous actress from the 50s. She wanted a very elegant and fine car and asked Ferrari to create something of this type. In this case, we have a bicolor car, a coupe. Back then, it was fashionable to have a bicolor car.
The streets are alive with lots of young people. Hotel Posta is in Reggio Emilia, Italy, and it's a historic hotel that's 500 years old, and it's still operating. Modena has many colorful buildings.
We will have a look at the front of the theater, which is a typical 19th century, the end of 19th century theater, named after Pavarotti after he died. He was a Modenese, but he started in Reggio, and Reggiani are very proud of this, and they stress it.
This is Verdi's childhood home. And of course, there's a statue of Verdi right in front. Verdi is one of the great composers of opera, and he lived in Modena. This is the Verdi water fountain. Water means richness. The colorful buildings are accented with fancy-free umbrellas.
We have 53 UNESCO sites in Italy, and one of these is in Modena, is the cathedral. In fact, it's not only the cathedral, it's all the square on where the cathedral is standing. That dates back to 1099, Romanesque style. So here we are. One of the highlights of Modena is the Palazzo Ducale. Here, the Este family was living starting from 17th century.
Wow, what an incredible experience in Emilia-Romagna.
We are at the Antica Corte Pallavicina, and this is a relais where it's an historical building, and where there are the one Michelin star restaurant, the Osteria del Maiale, which is like a more informal place, and 11 rooms. And here, this is also a particular place because it's where we age the culatelli.
I'm making pasta with eggs and flour.
It's nice. When you hold it like so, like on your wrist, because if you hold like that, it can break. So when you're holding it on your arm, one sec. Okay. Let go, let go, let go. Okay. Yep, like so. So you don't put too much pressure on it, you know? If you roll it out, it helps to make the little balls. If you start with it rolled out into the cylinder like so. Yeah, we have the pasta ready after you roll out the filling. You want to fold it in half, make a slight crease, just enough so you can have a guide when we start to when we put the filling. We only stay within the square because we're going to end up folding it over and have to cover it with the other side.
Quindi adesso posso cominciare a mettere il ripieno in questa maniera qua.
This is 80% Parmigiano Reggiano from our producer in Urzano, staged seasoned 24 months. 80% Parmigiano.
20% pane grattugiato.
And 20% grated breadcrumbs. Yeah, and we also added a little hot water into it to dilute a little the strong flavor of the Parmigiano, otherwise it's a little too strong, and to help bring everything together nicely. So when you have all the fillings placed.
Sì, posso capovolgere la pasta.
Yeah, the classic Italian pasta stamp to make the agnolini with the manica. The handle, usually always for these stamps, is made in wood, and with the brass fitting on the end to cut and shape the pasta. Inside there's a little spring to help make the form when you press down. In the beginning, if you pat down a little with your hands, it helps to just define where the balls are, just so by eye it's easier to see.
Quindi iniziamo a tagliare. Restano quindi gli anolini. Questo è un anolino.
Annolini in brodo. So these annolini in broth. It's chicken broth made from our chickens from the farm with some of our vegetables as well. In the method to do this, you just want to put a little pressure, push down and turn. Push down and turn. All right? Pipe straight up and down.
Oh.
Straight up and down. Apply a little pressure. Like so.
Is that 2 fingers?
Like so. Like so. Like so. A little closer. If you need to use your finger to unstick it, it's totally fine.
Lots of cold cuts.
This is also a particular place because of the fact that we are close to the River Po, and there is a particular climate that where it's possible to age the culatelli. In fact, the Spigaroli family, they used to produce the salumi and especially the culatello. And in the basement, downstairs the corte, you can find more than 5,000 pieces of culatelli. The production is made by hand and in a natural way. And our major production is the culatello di Zibello DOP, which is made with a white pig, but we also produce the culatello made with a black pig. The culatello di Zibello DOP is possible to produce it just in this area, so close to the River Po. And because the fog and humidity are really important for the aging of the culatello.
This is one of the most wonderful experiences because we're out in the country, we're in the city, we're all over. And this is unbelievable. And I'm talking to Francesco Brasili, and he's from the National Tourist Office of Italy in New York.
This year, the Ministry of Culture in Italy has already declared that Italy is celebrating the tradition of food making. And of course, Modena, as you've seen, it's also the place where the Ferrari come from, the food and the cuisine from the place, and also the beauty of some of the best, arguably the best cars ever produced.
Luxury cars, unbelievable.
Yes.
But then don't forget the wines.
Of course.
And I'll drink to that.
Places that we visited in Modena, first and foremost, it's this nice sparkling, and it's a perfect complement to a lot of the cold cuts that we had and some of the cheese that we have and we are going to have in the next few years.
And the making of Parmesan cheese is unbelievable.
Yes, I cannot agree more. The thing is also interesting, I think, from a tourist standpoint, is the fact that the secret recipe or the traditional way of doing things has not changed.
Well, I think it's incredible. It was one of the chefs today, he was 15 years old.
Look at the front of the theater, which is a typical 19th century, the end of 19th century theater, named after Pavarotti after he died. But you know that Pavarotti started in 1961, not in Modena, but in Reggio Emilia. He started there in 1961. Yeah, the competition, always the competition between Modenesi and Reggiani.
We are in the production area of the Lambrusco di Sorbara grapes, which is the typical Lambrusco of this area, because in Modena we have different variety of Lambrusco wine. So here we have about 30 hectares of vineyards. We have 28 hectares of Lambrusco di Sorbara and Lambrusco Salamino di Santa Croce, and 2 hectares of Pignoletto, which is the typical white grapes of this area and Bologna Hills. Here is where we move the wine after the first fermentation and the first filtration of the wine. Here we can control the temperature, and the pressure, because the Lambrusco can be sparkling. It's a sparkling wine. After 15 days, we can start with the second fermentation of the wine. We put the temperature between 16 and 18 degrees. We put inside the wine the selection of the yeast, and then the fermentation starts again. It's for about 20-30 days. Depends which kind of wine we want to produce. For example, for a sweet wine where we need more sugar but less alcohol, the fermentation will be shorter. For a dry wine where we need more alcohol and less sugar, will be longer. Welcome to our our winery and balsamic production. We started in 1920 the production of the wine, Lambrusco di Sorbara wine, which is the typical grapes and wine of this area. And then in 1975 we started the production of the balsamic, the traditional balsamic vinegar of Modena. The name of the company is Garuti, which is the surname, the family name of this family. Okay. So here we are in the typical area where it's usual to produce the traditional balsamic of Modena, okay, the aged balsamic of Modena, under the roof, because it's very important to have warm temperature during the summer and cold temperature during the winter, because the balsamic needs this big change of temperature between the seasons for the bacterial activity, which is very important to age the product. Balsamic of Modena can be produced with every variety of Lambrusco grapes produced in the Modena area only, and Trebbiano grapes. For the balsamic, the production starts during the harvest, okay, where we take the juice of the grapes, okay, and we boil everything for about 10-12 hours, because we need to concentrate the natural sugar that we have inside the grapes. The concentration at the end of the process must be 36-38%, more or less, okay? And then we put everything inside a big container to stabilize the product until the winter. Here, the production of the balsamic is in a battery, okay? Every battery must have minimum 5 barrels, okay? In our case, we have 6 barrels because we have 5 barrels plus the biggest one that you can see there. We take away 2 liters only from the top, and we leave the rest inside, because inside we have the mother, the concentration of the bacteria that we need to age the aceto. And then we start to move the balsamic barrel by barrel, from the bigger one to the smaller one. Sorting, we can find 2 different varieties of balsamic. Okay? There is the affinato, which is the balsamic with the typical characteristic of an aceto of minimum 12 years, okay? And then there is the extra vecchio, which is the typical balsamic of minimum 25 years. The only way to classify the balsamic is with the chemical and physical analysis and taste the balsamic, because every year when we move the aceto in every barrel, okay, we mix the aceto, because we never take away all the aceto. The balsamic that you can find in the supermarket is the balsamic of Modena, which is an IGP product.
I can't begin to tell you what it's like visiting Emilia-Romagna. It's a food capital. It's where everything is so fresh and organic. You know, you feel like you've died and gone to heaven. I love it. And Italy is a very special destination. You have to come and experience for yourself. Remember, my world is your world. So get up, get out, and travel. Hope to see you next week at another colorful destination. So long for now.